Okay, we're ready to sew our signature in and put my needle right through there. Do what you can do to make it work. We have our first signature sewed in. We're going to fill these pages up and it's going to become nice and chunky on its own. Hello, welcome back to Patty Loves Paper. I'm Patty. In our last video, we started the basics of how to make a journal using 3 different types of material. The first one was our Amazon brown envelope. The second one was a cracker box, and the last one was made from some chipboard. So today's video, we're going to do a stay and play where I hope you'll gather your materials and stay and play with me while I continue on with this journal. So this is the cracker box that we made the cover out of in our last video. And this is the cracker box we used. We used a cracker box exactly like this, and we cut it down. I have some other packages here. This is an old mouthwash box, an old Just Egg box, a couple of cracker boxes, a cookie box, and a tea bag box. And what we're going to do is hold on to these and consider using them for tags and different elements inside of our journal once we begin the decorating process. But today what we're going to do is start with our signatures in this journal, and it's going to start looking more like a book. Now, the first thing that I want to say is you can use any kind of box. Use whatever you have. At my house, we kind of are aware of our packaging. So if it's me, I know, I look at it right away and say, oh yeah, I want to make something out of that. If my husband is finishing a package, he'll ask me, hey, is this something that you may want for your journals? And typically it is. But once it goes into the trash can, it belongs to the trash can. I don't take anything out of the trash can. It stays in the trash can. So here we just know, don't throw it away unless you're absolutely sure Patty's not going to make something out of it. I want to just kind of talk about this cover. If you're not using a book that a box that's pretty sturdy, and this one is kind of flimsy, so by the time we got all of our paper on it, it kind of strengthened it up a little bit. If your box is not sturdy, just go ahead and put another layer of paper on it until it is the sturdiness that you would like. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with our signatures and possibly covering the front and back covers. So I have some packaging here, and I want to tell you a funny story about this. You know, this packaging comes all balled up in a box, and I got a delivery, and one of my favorite things to do is to take it out and start smoothing my pages out. And I was at the kitchen table. My husband and I both work from home, so we were on our lunch break, and I was at the kitchen table smoothing this paper out, just unwrinkling it and running my hands over it and folding it and smoothing it some more and folding it on the perforated side, and just kind of lost in the sound of it, the feel of it, because I really just love paper. I like to handle it. I like to the noise it makes. I just like it, and I'm just kind of lost in that, just smoothing it out, and all of a sudden I hear, "What are you doing? You're about to drive me nuts." And it was my husband, and I just had to laugh. I was like, how could we have 2 different reactions to the exact same event? Me smoothing out paper. But typically he's not around when I do that, because I do that upstairs in my craft room, and it's usually me by myself with either music on or some type of podcast or something that I'm listening to, and so he doesn't really hear that crinkling of the paper. But it just was really funny that, to me, I was having this great reaction, he was having this awful reaction. So anyway, back to our journal. What we're going to do is we're going to separate these in two of each sheets, okay? So this would be one. We're going to separate them, and then we're going to put a line of Tyvek tape down the center, and we're going to glue the rest of those two sides together to make one page, okay? Then we're going to cut that page down to fit in our journal. We're also going to take our tea-dyed paper. We have our tea-dyed paper, and I have already decided when I did my measuring that we're going to do paper that is 10.5 long by 7 high. I think I said that wrong. No, I said it right. 10.5 by 7. So we're going to measure that. Ten and 1/2 by 7. Excuse me, it's almost 7, not quite 7. All right. So I'm going to cut the rest of my tea-dyed paper off camera so you don't have to watch me do that. But I am going to get started on this packaging. So we're going to separate the pages into two. Let's see, where's my end? Right here. So here's a perforation and here's a perforation, and we're just going to use the second perforation. We're going to put a piece of Tyvek tape down the center, and then we're going to put glue all on one side and glue it all in. That's going to strengthen the center where we're sewing this into our journal. So that's why we want to put that Tyvek to strengthen it. If you don't have Tyvek, no big deal. Use some masking tape, or get some of your scrap paper and put your scrap paper down just to kind of thicken it. You just want to make it stronger in that center so it doesn't rip, because this is that real fine, thin paper. Okay, so I'm going to start that process, and then we'll start making our signatures. Okay, so I folded most of our pages. off camera just so you wouldn't have to be bored watching me fold paper, but we just want to line it up and put a nice crease in the center of it just to make sure that we know where we want our thread to go. All right, so we got all of those folded. We have most of these folded. I just have a couple left of these tea-dye pages. And then we're going to start putting our signature together. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be perfect for you. So if you like it, then it's great. I think that's one of the things that appealed to me with junk journaling, because I've always tried to be so perfect and I've always failed. So I think the fact that I don't have to be perfect in this just makes me love it even more. All right, so I think what we're going to do is start with some packaging, and then I'm going to put 2 pages of tea-dyed paper in between each paper packaging. I'm just going to alternate them to get them just like we want. You see how these are kind of wonky? They're all going to smooth out once we have our decorative paper on it. All right. I think we'll finish with the tea-dyed paper. Okay, so there's one signature. So we're going to bring that paper all together and try to get it brought all the way down to that center. And then we're going to put a paper clip or a clamp, whatever kind of clamp you have. You don't need a green and blue paper clip. You just need something to hold it in place so it doesn't move. All right, we'll probably clamp that a little bit better. Just line it up the way you want it. All right, and we'll put this one together. Some of these tea-dyed pages came out so pretty. And I think the reason that happened was because I put a stack of paper in the tea all together, like, you know, like a stack of 10 or 20. When I do it individually, it doesn't really come out like that. So I think that's what happened. Anyway, I'm going to, next time I dye some paper, I'm going to try it again, because some of these, just the coloring, the different colorings and the patterns are just very interesting to me. All right, let's see what we got. And again, we're just alternating. Let's see. It's 2, 4, 6, 8. We have another set. I guess we could do another one. See, that to me is just so interesting. But if I tried to do that, I don't know that it would work out. All right, now my signatures are not going to be even because, let's switch this one out. Oh, that's why we had extra. Okay. And then I took another one and made 3 out of it. Where's that one? Right here. Nope, that one's got to go in the center. All right, let's see how these go together. I'll clip this just a little bit because it's the last 2 pages and they are going to hang out just a little bit, so I'm going to clip that just a tiny bit. Oh, I got sticky tape on my scissors. And we'll try to cut it straight, but guess what? Sometimes I don't cut straight either. And I have found out that that is okay. All right. All right, that is much better. And again, we're going to push this really into that center. And while we're holding it tight, we're going to try to get that paper clip on. All right. All right, there's our 2 signatures. I think those are nice, thick signatures. So what we're going to do today is we're going to, and I've already put some lines and did some measuring, and you can see that we're going to cut our paper here, and we're going to cut our paper here. We're going to cut this first. Let's get that cut. Okay. And then we're going to cut this side. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to cover our inside center of the journal. Get that down really good, and then we're going to sew it in. So I already have some double stick tape on the back of this. We're going to pull all that off. And we're going to line this up. Is that right side up? Yeah, it is. All right, and we're going to really push it down to get that tape to really stick, because we don't want it to buckle up. So we're just going to press and press, make sure we're really pressing that adhesive into that book, into that paper, okay? And then we're going to slowly start to fold it on those folds. Now we're folding it outward first, just to kind of make sure it's got enough give that it's not going to start buckling on us, okay? Now I'm going to smooth it down again. And now I'm going to start slowly finding that crease where our book folds and bringing it up so it doesn't buckle on us. And you see, there we have no buckle. All right, let's see if we can be as successful on this side. We're going to slowly start bringing that up. I'm right-handed, so I got to turn it upside down. slowly start bringing it while I'm going into that fold and pushing that adhesive into the paper and into the book. All right, so we don't have any type of buckling. Now, does it always come out this smoothly? No, I have to tell you. Sometimes I got to pull it up and redo it because there's a big buckle somewhere. Either here or here. Somewhere there's a big buckle. But this, luckily, came out pretty good. Okay, we're ready to sew our signature in. And we are going to get a piece of leftover scrap, and we're going to cut it to measure the height of our book. Okay, we're going to fold that in half and get a good crease. And then we'll fold that in half again. We're going to get another very good crease. And then we're going to fold it lengthwise. And again, we're going to get another very good crease. When we open it up where the folds meet, that is where we're going to put our sewing holes. They're going to be perfectly spaced. So now I'm going to mark these right where each one of the folds meet. And we're going to take our signature. Okay, so I had to redo this because I had some trouble getting my signature in, so we're going to start with a fresh book, and we're going to punch our holes in our signature and our book. So because I already did that, I already have my holes here, but you're going to be working as if your holes weren't here. So we have our paper, and it is overhanging on both sides because remember, our book is a little bit longer than our signatures in height, actually. Okay, so now we're going to try to hold it all together. We're going to put our paper clip over our template for our signature holes, and then we're going to slide this paper clip or your clamp, whatever you're using, and we're going to include our book in that. Okay, so now this is clipped to this. All right, and so we're going to put our little foam board underneath, and we're ready to get our needle ready. I don't use the smallest, but I don't use the largest. And I go about 3.5 times the height of my book with my waxed cord. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 1/2. And it's important to remember that not everything works every time. Some materials are different than other materials. Sometimes you have, or I'm not going to say you, me, I have trouble with signatures sometimes, getting them into the book. Sometimes my book will give me problems. So it just really depends on the materials that you're using. And because I'm using a lot of recycled materials, I never know what the outcome's going to be. All right, so I just took another paper clip to kind of hold this steady for me, and we would use this if the holes weren't already in our book, but because the holes aren't already in our book, we're not going to use that. If you were using it, you would just take your marking and you would go all the way through all three, the paper, the signature, and the book. All right, so I'm going to move this just to make sure I get my holes in the right spot. Make sure I have my journal just like I want it. This page looks a little off to me, so I'm going to straighten it. All right, and we're going to go all the way through our book, and we're going to bring it all the way through our book. Turn it a little bit just to make sure, and then what I can do is put my needle right through there just to make sure that it's kind of staying in place. Okay. We're gonna keep it, make sure it's all straight and lined up. Now we're gonna do these holes. Again, you're not gonna have the holes unless you're starting with the holes already like I am. I'm going all the way through, and now I'm gonna grab my needle. And you don't have to do it this way. I'm just finding that it's easier to get the needle through those holes if I do it as soon as I pull out that tool. All right, now we're going to do the very last one. Make sure it stays up. Make sure nothing shifted. I think we're good. All the way through. Go through with my needle while it's still in place. Again, I don't always do it this way, but this is some little bit thicker material, so I want to make sure that I'm not poking new holes when I put my thread through. All right, if you're having trouble like I am, I just loosen up my thread on the inside of my signature. I find my hole. I bring my needle through just the book. Okay, so I brought it just through the book. And then I'm going to bring it through my book. Excuse me, my signature. And there we go. We got it. And you got to remember you're making all of this from recycled or materials that you're making basically from scratch. And so it's not always going to work perfect. So don't worry. Do what you can do to make it work. Okay, now we're going to tie this. Sometimes I tie it 3 times. It just depends. All right. Now, we can let this dangle. We can tie it in a bow. Or we can add some charms to it when we're finished. I don't know what I want to do. So I'm just going to tie it in a bow till I decide. Because once I cut it, I can't get it back. So I'm just going to tie it in a bow and leave it just like that. All right, there's our first signature. All right, we're sewed in. There you go. All right, we have our first signature sewed in. Here we go. Let's get ready to do our second one. Okay, using our pattern for our holes, we have already punched the holes in, so now we're going to measure our waxed thread. We're going to do 3 times the height of the journal, 3.5 times, excuse me. And that's where we're going to plop it, and we're going to get this one sewn in also. Same concept. We want to make sure that we're getting it in the correct hole. You don't want to be making new holes. And it's not always this clumsy, but with the cameras and the microphones, I'm trying to make sure that I show this on the camera, because usually I have it a little bit closer and my head's all in the middle of everything, and that's just not how it's going to work today. All right, our last spot. All right, we did it. Great. But I think we came through this again. Let's back that up a little bit. All right. I'm going to bring this back on this side so we have one tail on either side of our center string, and we're going to pull it taut. We don't want it loose. There, it looks good. All right, so once you have it the way you need it to be, double knot it. Again, I don't know if I want to cut it, put some charms on it, or bow it. So I'm just going to bow it for now, and we can always change that later. All right, so let's look at our finished work. Here we go. And there's our book. Do I have that upside down again? No, I don't. There's our book. Two signatures. This is a signature. This is a signature. We probably could fit one more in here, but I don't want to make it too crowded, because we're going to fill these pages up and it's going to become nice and chunky on its own. So that's where we're going to end tonight. I'm so glad you joined me for a stay and play, and I hope you made your junk journal beginnings also. Join me next time where we start to fill this book in and cover it with all the pretty papers. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you in another video. Bye-bye.